Howdy-ho, Andrew, aka Kelpier here. Welcome to the Onion Buns and welcome to another episode of Hilarious Gaming Stories. So we're going to lighten up the load here this week after last week's depressing, horrific story. One of the, I don't like exploits. Okay, I'm going to be very honest. I don't exploit, ever. I don't like exploit, I don't like exploiting bugs, and I never hack. If I can't win legit, I don't want to win. It's as simple as that. My ego can take losing. So I know there's a lot of people out there online that they cannot handle losing. And I mean, I don't like losing. I get frustrated, I get annoyed, everything like that. But my ego can handle it. I'm not so delicate and everything. But this was like I said, Ultima Online had some of the worst exploiting I had ever seen in all my years of gaming, before or after. It stands by itself. One of the funniest exploits I ever heard of, though. I told you that the lag in Atlantic server was so bad that I had to transfer half my guild over to the Baja server because we couldn't function on the Atlantic server. It was so horrible. The people that left, or stayed, I should say, on the Atlantic servers, though, they created their own guild called Dark and Bane. And it was ran by a guy I knew from Neverwinter Nights, and I knew he was an exploiter, a hacker. He had been caught cheating in Neverwinter Nights on AOL and kicked out of the guild I was in on Neverwinter Nights AOL. So I wasn't really surprised. And I had actually kicked him out of this guild as well before I moved the guild, and then he reformed his Dark and Bane guild there. And I wasn't really surprised to hear this story revolving about him. But PKing, player killing, was a big activity in Ultima Online because there was no rules against it. Like, there was no guards protecting you. Maybe a little bit in the villages there was guards, but they were even rare, you know. And yeah, so player killing was a big proponent of Ultima Online. And you just had to accept it. I didn't care. Like, I was actually pretty good at it. But like I said, I've never been a big fan of unconsensual PvP. You know, I want to fight people that want to fight me willingly. You know, I don't want to pick on some Joe Blow who's off mining ore or something and let him go do his thing. You know, he's not harming anyone. So, anyway, this guild on Atlantic Canada, I heard this story secondhand, but they got in a bit of trouble because they weren't the PvP gods that they like to believe they were. So they came up with an exploit. Because when you died in Ultima Online, your body died on the ground, as I told you in a previous video, and your goods stayed on there. Now, the person that killed you could loot your body. So your goods were gone. Like, you were SOL, you know. And Gray and them, this was happening to them. They were losing goods. So what they came up with was an idea that they were going to naked PvP. In other words, they stripped down to their skivvies and they had like a cheap sword or something that could be easily replaced in anywhere. And they would go out, and there would be like 12 or 13 of them would go out, and they would jump solo players, and they'd whack them down, they'd steal all their goods, and they'd run off. And if they happened to die, well, so be it, they were naked. They're a roaming band of naked marauders. You know, and because they, like, one-on-one, they couldn't beat an armed character, obviously, or a magical user or something. But 13 or 14 characters zerging, you know, somebody's going to come out of that fight alive because it's just the numbers game. And this was what they'd do. They'd stand outside a town. You'd come walking out of the town and they'd bump on you. They'd steal your stuff. One person run in town, drop all the stuff into a vault, come out, and they'd sit and wait. And they'd do this for hours. Now, first off, I can't imagine this being fun. Now, maybe it's just me. It could be. Maybe I don't see the creativity in it or the challenge. Like when I PvP, I want to be challenged. Like my fondest PvP memories in Dark Age of Camelot are my duels when I was challenged, like my duel with Lane or my duel with that paladin I told you, or my duel with my with the Midgard Skald. I forget his name now, but you know, he was really well known on our server, and him and I, like after a while, we just waved at each other. We didn't fight each other anymore. But in the early days, we would duel each other in the RVR lands, and they were great duels. They were fantastic, and they were challenging, you know, and whether you won or lost, you knew you had been in a great battle and you felt good about it. 13, 14 naked players jumping a newbie, I don't see the appeal. I really don't. But this is what they would do, and they would do this for hours. I think finally they got punished by the GMs on the server for doing this, because you stopped hearing about this happening. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's hilarious to me what some players will go to just to win. Like their egos are so fragile, they have to win at any cost. They can't handle not being the best. And this is what happened with Gray in Neverwinter Nights. Is he got caught using it was a program called XGM. It was the GMs in Neverwinter Nights used a extension program that gave them godlike powers so that they could teleport all over the map and, you know, fix problems and help people and run events and everything. And Gray got a hold of that program, but he wasn't an NW, a GM. He wasn't supposed to. And so he would go into PvP in God mode, and people were complaining, going, these creatures are acting really strange. And I actually got called to go duel them and, you know, figure out what was going on. And I dueled him. I'm like, yeah, he's controlling the creatures. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he got tossed out of the guild, and then he got tossed out of the game for hacking. But it was like, yeah, so this is what they were doing. Is like they were stripping down to their skivvies. They'd have a single weapon, low-grade weapon, and they were just zerging. Newbies. They weren't even going after established players. They were going after newbies who couldn't fight back. And they were doing this for hours on end. And yeah, like I said, it's pathetic, but it's kind of funny that the limit some people will go to just to feel victorious. Thankfully, I've never been that obsessed with winning at any cost. So yeah, that's my video for today. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. I'm trying to grow my channel, and a like, a subscribe, and a share does me wonders, and I do appreciate it. It takes 1 second to subscribe. Just hit that subscribe button below. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it helps me immensely. It really does. Always feel free to leave a comment. I encourage everybody to leave a comment. Not only does it get us interacting, but it really does help me with the YouTube algorithm and getting more eyes on my videos. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.